for them and their life. They come to work out on that and work on behalf of municipality board residents in emergency and fire situations. So with that, I will turn it over to Chief Morehouse to introduce the recruits.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. We'll call forward my one up here at a time with their spouse or significant other. They will pin on the epaulets, the firefighter epaulets. So first we want to call on Bill Jacob. Bill, congratulations. I've been waiting for this for a long time.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Bill.
Thank you.
Next up is Mr. Jacob Perry. Congratulations, Jacob. Fine job to your first year here with us at South Dundas Fire Emergency Service. Many more. Congratulations. Next up, Mr. Matt Healy. Matt's going to get double teamed here by Deputy Chief Allen and Captain Groom. Congratulations, Matt. And the last one we have with us tonight is Matthew Robinson. Matthew? Lots of help here tonight. We also have two members that can't be with us tonight that are also graduating. One is Eric Swank from Iroquois and Etienne Toaster from Williamsburg. Matt represents Williamsburg, Bill, Matt, and Jacob all represent the Morrisburg station. All right. Congratulations, Dan. We want to welcome all our recruits, and to the four that are the three that started a couple of weeks ago. We will hope in a year's time we'll see us back here with another group. So, Mayor, Council, thank you for attending. Appreciate your support, and that's all we have from this day.
Okay, and once again, I'd like to congratulate all the recruits and welcome them to South Dundas Fire Emergency Services. And with that, we will have an intermission till I, as your mayor, and our deputy mayor and councillor Lewis will go back to our council chambers to restart our meeting there. So thank you very much.
Okay, and welcome back, and once again, I'd like to welcome you to the 77th meeting of the 7th Council of the Municipality of South Dundas. So we've done our call to order presentations, so confirmation of agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments tonight from council? Anything from staff?
No.
Okay, any disclosure of community interest, general nature thereof this evening? Adoption of minutes, please.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, second by Councillor Wells, that the 66 regular and in-camera meetings of the municipality of South Dundas be adopted as circulated.
Any issues? All heard in motion, those in favor, opposed, motion carries. Public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment.
Moved by Councillor Wells, second by Councillor Mallon, that the public meeting to consider a zoning bylaw amendment be opened at 6 o'clock PM.
All heard in motion, those in favor, opposed, motion carries. And who do we have tonight to do the presentation?
Aaron from JL Richards.
Okay,
Hello, everyone.
hello Aaron,
Hi, you guys can hear me clear?
we
Clearly?
can hear you, yes.
Yep. Okay.
There you go.
The applicant, Mr. Mark Levere, submitted a zoning bylaw amendment application to rezone the subject property at 10404 Hato Road from institutional to institutional special exception 2, which will allow for the conversion of the former schoolhouse to a single detached dwelling. This will allow for the residential use to be the primary use on the subject property. The amendment will also reduce the minimum requirement for an exterior side yard setback from 7.5 meters to 4. I would like to note that this is a corner lot, and for corner lots, the shortest street line is deemed the front lot line, which is, therefore the exterior side yard is the side road. The planning department has no concerns regarding the impacts of the proposed use and recommend that council approve the proposed amendment.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, concerns from council? Do we have any comments from the public that have been addressed or have come in?
No comments came in.
Okay. If that's the case, then I'll close the meeting then, please.
Moved by Councillor Wells, second by Councillor Lewis, that the public meeting to consider a zoning bylaw amendment be closed at 6:02 PM.
All heard the motion, those in favor, opposed, motion carried. Moving on, tonight we have a delegation by Michael Jans and Ben DeHaan from the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry concerning the Morrisburg Streetscape project.
Gentlemen, are you with us? We can't hear you. A little bit. Okay. There we go.
Hello?
I see Ben.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Great, sorry, I don't know. Technology, got a lot. Just hello, I want to say hello to council and congratulations to the new firefighters. My role tonight is pretty straightforward. I'm going to be introducing Michael Jans, who's our County Manager of Infrastructure. Michael's been working with us since October, and he's really bringing the Morrisburg design to the finish line on the county's behalf, and we're just about there, and that's what we're excited to share with council. This has been Mike's priority project since he started back in August, and he's done a lot of work behind the scenes, and I think he'll be happy to see some of those updates. So with that, I'll throw it over to Mike to start the presentation and provide council with the presentation, and we'll be here to answer any questions that you might have as at the end. Thank you.
Yes, you'll have to speak up, Mike. Might have to speak up a little bit more, Michael.
Is this better?
A little bit more.
A little more.
Yeah.
Right in the front of my mouth. Is this? Can you hear me now?
That's
Perfect.
better, yes.
That okay. All right. I will now share my screen.
me know whenever you can see the presentation.
We can see it now.
Okay. So the counties has prepared this presentation as a summary of the design progress and to provide some key information. This is regarding our design of the Morrisburg Roundabout in collaboration with the municipality of South Dundas. Here's our overview. We're going to provide some summary on the pre-tendering public consultations that we've been carrying out over the last approximately 3 weeks. We'll present the final design concepts and show some of them up here on my screen. We'd also like to go over some of the updates to project costs, to upcoming dates, and provide an opportunity at the end for some questions. Approximately early October, we sent out a drawing set and made them available on our webpage as well. They were the 95% detailed design drawings. We circulated mailouts to businesses on County Road 2 as well as Ottawa Street and County Road 31. They were individualized to the businesses, giving them the specific pages that their property was shown on. And they could be, the full set could be downloaded from our webpage, as well as various other drawings such as the street lighting and electrical drawings. We also use some social media to try and raise awareness of this availability for download and spread the word. We also circulated to South Dundas for use of your social media feeds as well. Affected property owners were invited to direct questions to myself, Manager of Infrastructure with the counties. So far, I have conducted 4 scheduled site visits with affected owners and utilities. There have been some localized design adjustments, comments that we'll be carrying forward and providing to the design consultants shortly for their preparation of the final design drawings. I also conducted 2 additional unscheduled site visits with other property owners who approached me while I was there in Morrisburg. And their entrances so far, we do not have any proposed alterations to carry forward on the drawings. Now, South Dundas was previously asked to provide input on the design aesthetic of the roundabout, prominent features including plantings, etc. And this is what we received at the time. These images, which include items such as the block walls, the block text, flagpoles, etc. The design consultant's first attempt using these items as key features looked something like this. We can see the upper level with river rock and a concrete pad, the lower level with greenery, but also a lot of features that were undesirable. South Dundas Council provided further feedback, which resulted in a definitive list of 6 key features which have been incorporated into the current design. Here's the list of key features: the concrete pad, block wall, Morrisburg text, flagpoles, riverstone, and artificial turf for the low maintenance aspect. So in our current design set on drawing DE1, we can see the concrete pad spec'd in this cross section of the roundabout itself. And we can also see some specifications for the block wall. However, underlined in red, we do note that there is a call out to the landscape plan for certain specifications for that block wall. Moving over to the landscape plan, we see note 7 with the remaining specifications for the block wall. I apologize for the graininess of these photos. If you're not able to read this text, I wasn't able to get a better version into the slideshow, but they are available for download on our webpage. So here we see the manufacturer, the product, the color, the finish of the stone, for example. So I invite you guys to read this and provide any feedback if you have additional feedback on this. We also have a specification in this note for the Morrisburg text, material, finish, color, etc. We have 3 flag poles shown in the center of the roundabout. We have the river stone as per the legend, and we have the artificial turf as per the legend. I'd like to move on to a few other items regarding the design. There has been a removal of contemplated concrete sidewalk, which was in a previous iteration of the design spanning between Campbell Street and Laurier Drive. This was done to accommodate the businesses on the north side of County Road 2, who were going to be adversely affected by the previous layout. We also have a sidewalk realignment connecting the sidewalks at the roundabout itself to the McEwen gas station. The design includes for 7 pedestrian crossings. There are 4 within the roundabout, 1 approximately 40 meters west of St. Lawrence Street, and 1 at the intersection of County Road 2 and Cassell Road, and 1 just east of the Tim Hortons entrance. The landscape plantings have been minimized as a request to maintain a low maintenance feature within the village. Street pedestrian lighting includes receptacles at strategic areas, and the light poles will accommodate decorative banners. And there are provisions for colored concrete as an additional decorative item. Moving on to project costs. The current cost projection is $4.25 million for the project, which includes contingency, engineering, contract administration, and other miscellaneous costs. We've broken down the cost of these items along the lines of what would be county infrastructure and what would be South Dundas infrastructure. The county's cost would be $3.25 million, or approximately 76.5% of the total project cost. And the South Dundas cost would be $1 million, approximately 23.5%. As most of you are aware, were granted ICIP funding to the tune of $2.53 million, 1.52 of which is coming from the federal government, 1.01 million coming from the provincial government. Apportioning the funding along the same lines as the cost breakdown above for the counties and the municipality. The South Dundas pre-tender estimated financial contribution is $410,000, and the county's pre-tender estimated financial contribution is $1.3 million. These preliminary costs, we'd like to note, are based on pre-COVID unit rates. The cost landscape is a bit variable at the moment. In the last couple of months especially, costs have risen for certain items, quite notably. An unofficial unit quantities update was not part of the design consultant's mandate, so the cost, the unit quantities that we're working with are from 1 or 2 versions of the drawings ago. However, we did obtain an informal update, and they advised us that the continued use of the original quantities was appropriate, fairly reflective of the current design. Naturally, the final cost will be determined through tender, and final apportioning of federal and provincial funding will be determined following tender. Moving on to upcoming dates. We'd like to try to end the pre-tender public consultation this week and proceed to providing the design consultant with the final comments at the end of the week, and request them to proceed to preparing the final drawings for tender. We would like to issue the tender on November 13th and close the tender on December 14th, and provide the recommendation to County Council of the results of the tender on December 21st. And now I invite you to ask any questions that you may have.
Okay, well, thanks, Mike, and thanks, Ben, so far. I think it was important that council had an opportunity to see what you have done so far and any issues that you have had to deal with to the best of your ability have been at least addressed at that point, but I know the council was, always wanting to be part of the last discussion, considering that, we in South Dundas are the ones that, have to manage the political field on this streetscape, so I'll start off with Deputy Mayor Gardner, and we'll just go around the table.
Thanks, Mayor Barvelds. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate the fact that you've had some scheduled and unscheduled visits. Is it your intent to go back? Like, is there further discussion that's going to happen, or are you just waiting for email back and forth?
I am still engaged in several email back and forths with a few of the landowners, especially on the north side of County Road 2.
Okay. And when we're talking about entrances for these landowners, in some of the discussion that I've heard about, there's some concerns about landlocking some of the lands not having a driveway entrance from Highway 2. I'm just wondering if that is something that can be moved forward on, or, you know, it's tricky with this stuff because I understand it's a massive project, it's a massive undertaking, but from what I've heard from the business owners, it's just a case of they want to make sure not too much is taken away, and front access is really important for future sale of a property and just for customer applications. So are there any properties left in the plan that will not have front-facing entrances?
No, and there is one property in particular where we were looking to, we're in discussions with the landowner at this time. They are forward-thinking and have an alternative laneway as opposed to the two that they currently have that they would like to propose, and we're still coordinating back and forth with them. In this particular case, they also have access to Van Allen at the back, which we would support if they were to look that way for an entrance. However, at this time, they have two entrances, and we're proposing the exact same geometry being reinstated.
Okay.
And if we can work out an alternative that we all agree with, that option is still on the table.
Okay, good to hear, good to hear. And the other question I had is just a random question, but when we put the grass along the roadway, who's responsible for the maintenance? Is it the property owners? Is it the municipality? Is it the counties?
I believe that the municipality currently looks after some of the grass on the south side. On the north side, we have tried to minimize grass as much as possible. And I believe we are, Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, only reinstating grass where there previously was grass.
We'd have to double check that, Mike, just to make sure, but generally speaking, that is correct.
Okay, there was just some concern that it would be put on the property owners to, now they'd have a frontage to look after, so. Okay, that's my question.
Councilor Lewis?
Mike, whenever the driveways are being done, are they going to be wide enough for tractor trailers to pull in, or are they going to have difficulty? Are we leaving them the same width as they are now?
So for certain driveways, we have approached the owners and we've asked them, how is it working for you? Are you getting by with what you have now? And in the cases where it's yes, we planning to reinstate the same geometry or slightly larger if their laneways were smaller than modern standards. There are still concerns from one landowner about tractor trailer access, and I am looking into it. They only reached out to me this morning. So that is ongoing, and I have not yet satisfied their concern that tractor trailers will be able to exit their property in a satisfactory manner.
I have one more question for you. I was talking to one of the landowners this afternoon on the north side of the road, and as soon as I mention it, you'll know who I'm talking about. They seem to have a little bit of problem with people coming in to park to deal with their business, because for the last, well, as long as I can remember, they've been parking on county property. Now, can we work with them? Because I seen the blueprint that you sent them, and the one place that you had for parking, I would say, is most definitely out of the realm because it's in front of an entrance of the store.
Yes, so we provided them with a sketch that they could accommodate 3, potentially 4 parking spaces, and I met on site with them with a measuring wheel, and we marked off on their asphalt approximate locations of their proposed front canopy building facade improvements. We also marked off approximate locations of parking tails should they proceed to paint them on their asphalt. Unfortunately, there wasn't a solution there that day. I offered to go back and they declined. At this point in time, I'm not sure what's to become of that. The offer remains to walk their site and offer suggestions for improving parking. Ultimately, parking on county property is not going to be an option much longer, which is unfortunate for them, but it's been very beneficial for them for the last few decades to make use of that land, absolutely.
Okay, well, I would like you to go back and have a talk to them because the design that was given to them, it doesn't seem to be very satisfactory for them. So I'd appreciate it if you would try to work with them very much. Thank you.
Councilor Mellon?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Byvells. I guess there's a couple questions. The sidewalk crossings going through, especially through the roundabout, will there be adequate signage or, because I'm quite concerned about the traffic flow around the traffic circle with the crosswalks there and how that's gonna work. We don't need somebody getting run over when they're, they don't, like, how do you handle that crosswalks going through that roundabout or, not just before the roundabout on the 4 sides, basically on the 4 approaches or exits?
Yeah, so we have received this comment on numerous previous roundabouts, and there is a method to their location within proximity to the roundabout, and when you're in the roundabout, I understand that you are concerned that the crosswalk is very near to where you're pulling out, and perhaps your reaction time doesn't feel like it's long enough. However, if you move the crosswalk too far outside the roundabout, then you have vehicles accelerating as they leave the roundabout, which would lead to a more serious collision if they don't see the pedestrian. So these crosswalks, they have flashing lights. They are quite bright, and when used properly, in other installations that we have around the counties, thus far they have seemed to be, and I believe proven to be quite safe and appropriate for a design.
Okay. Also, I see, well, you're using artificial turf, if you will, but there is areas where it's landscaped in, I guess, the islands on the 4 directional lanes, I guess, east, west, north, south. Have we had a discussion of who's going to be looking after that, the green space?
Yes, those plantings will need some maintenance. They are carefully selected to be among the lower maintenance requiring plantings. I believe they are rose bushes, and they are an integral part of the design, contributing to the traffic calming and forcing vehicles to slow down and look carefully as they approach the roundabout. So in our opinion, they're essentially an essential requirement of the design. For their size, I believe they are a minor item for maintenance, and there have been discussions. I don't believe we have a resolution on that item yet, though.
Yeah, I mean, we don't
If I-
wanna get into an, you know, as long as we have know who's doing what on that, so we don't have
Yep.
you know, grow up in the weeds before somebody decides it needs to be done. Okay, I think my, other concerns have been, raised by, my colleagues, Deputy Mayor Gardner and Councilor Lewis. It's just, that when I look at the traffic flow going, especially going west, I guess, at the Canadian Tire and the McEwen Gas Bar, hopefully there will be enough of a break from that, and I assume there will be, merge lanes or whatever there to allow that traffic. I can see there's a bottleneck there by, you know, the Giant Tiger and Canadian Tire and the McEwen Gas Bar.
It does reduce 2 lanes at that location, and the crosswalk will have the flashing orange lights, which yield right of way to the pedestrians.
Okay. All right, that's all for now, Mayor Bibles.
Councilor Wells?
Hi, Michael. A lot of my questions have been answered. The last one, Councilor Mellon went about, down at, McEwen's and that. I know going up to, Kentville for that roundabout there, if you get past McEwen's there, that TSC store, it's virtually impossible to get out of there. Like, I mean, you could stop for 10 minutes. So that's a concern, that whole area, even with the lights, is congested right now. So hopefully, you guys have this in that, I don't know how it's gonna work, but hopefully it's gonna work. Another concern is, and it was already mentioned about the crosswalks there. Like, do we need all the crosswalks there? Like, we're gonna have one down at Tim Hortons where the people from the trailer park basically there can get to the mall, which is the objective, to get there. And so, like, maybe we can eliminate one of them or whatever, I'm not sure. And Councilor Lewis, talking about the other, business owner, which, I would definitely want you to make sure everything's good with that owner. All the mediums here, are they a flush medium, or are they gonna be raised out in front of the businesses?
These medians will be raised.
Like, why do we have to have them that far down, and why do we have to raise them? Because, like, once you get down past Auto Pro and that, like, I don't understand why we need them there and raised myself. Like, just, like, can you explain the design, like, why they want them raised?
A large part of this will be traffic calming. The raised medians can't be driven over, and when you have the frequency of entrances that we have, and we're trying to control left turning at specific locations, so drivers have a lane to turn left, they pull into, they look and they make a careful left turn. The central turning lane that is there at the moment is ambiguous. In these lanes, you have vehicles from oncoming directions that are pulling into these lanes sooner than they should, and coming head on with each other, and then in order to resolve that conflict, they have to pull back into their eastbound or westbound lane, which creates a conflict with whoever's coming up behind them. So the design with the raised islands and the intermittent left turn lanes is designed to remove these conflicts and to direct drivers to slow down and turn at the location where they need to make the turn and not outside of these areas. Now, there will be one depressed median location which will facilitate left turning into one of the sites that we've mentioned earlier tonight. But aside from that, the remainder of the medians will be full height 6-inch raised curbs.
Because I just want to make sure that due to the lumber business, that like if a transport comes in with a raised medium there, like they have to get turned around and stuff like that. So I just wanna,
So
just
I can
make
speak to
sure
that.
that's accounted for.
I can speak to that site. The locations of the medians, the lengths of the medians have been carefully designed that transport can approach from both the east and the west and get into their site. And there will be a curb island in front of the site as well that will be fully depressed, so as not to obstruct a truck pulling in in an area that is not their actual entrance.
Okay, so obviously you've talked to the owners about that and everything's good then. The only other question I have, like the 410,000 that's projected to be the municipality's cost on this, what is that all going towards? Like, is it going towards like all the sidewalks, lighting? Like, what is our initial, or is it just the overall project?
No, you pretty much hit it right there. The crosswalks are a major item. The sidewalks are a major item, and I believe the light poles are mostly county. To light up, illuminating the roadway would be a county item. So it is primarily those two. There are some asphalt and granular items to go along with the multi-use pathway. That would also be the third major item. Anything else that I could possibly list would probably be negligible.
Okay. Well, I just wanna make sure like we didn't have to pay more than we had to, that's all. It's, at the end of the day, so. Anyways, I guess that's all for me. Mayor Bylaws?
Okay, anything further on this side of the table, Mayor Gardner?
Yeah, so thanks, Mayor. When we're at this 95, how will it look when you're wrapping up with the businesses? Like what's the intent with the unresolved matters? Will council receive a report based on what couldn't be resolved, or like how do we move forward on this with, because you've got what, 11 days from now where it's going to go out to tender. So those little pieces that are unresolved, that are major concerns, I understand you can't please everybody, but I've seen some of the back and forth. What's your next step, Mike? Like how does this wrap up?
Yes, so with certain landowners already, I have come to agreements with them about where their entrances are going to go, and we have essentially in writing through email an agreement on what the final product should look like, including in some cases sketches. Those sketches will be carried forward to consultant into their final detailed drawings. In the cases of the landowners where we don't have an agreement, but we have general concepts where we believe there could still be an agreement found, it's not outside of the realm of the possibility to adopt altering geometry later on. It could be done through change orders during the contract. Those are undesirable, but it is still a possibility.
Okay.
So I would encourage all landowners to work with me as quickly as possible so that we do go to tender with the most complete drawing set possible, which is the best option for both the municipality and the counties. And anything that is unresolved at the end of this is not, they will not be ignored. They will not be, the door won't be shut on them. However, I'd like to resolve them this week, preferably.
And I appreciate your commitment to that. The other question I have, these rose bushes, are we putting those
Yes.
near any of the crosswalks?
There will be a, I'd say, generous separation between the crosswalks and the rose bushes.
Okay. The only reason why I'm commenting is if you drove through any of the Tim Hortons drive-throughs where they decided to put the rose bushes, there's a large concentration of wasps, etc., which might not work well for the pedestrians.
Getting papers out.
He's getting his WASP report out.
He's getting the big thick file out now.
How many wasps per rose bush? Maybe, hopefully the wasps don't like those rose bushes. You never know.
4 planters. I'm seeing approximately 1 meter of separation between the crosswalk and the rose bushes, with the sidewalk itself being 3 meters wide.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any
And-
further, Councilor Lewis?
No, I'd just like to thank Mike for saying that he is gonna work with the landowners. That was good to hear, because that was one of my concerns, so thank you very much.
Councilor Mallon, anything further?
I don't think so. I mean, you know, like it's been already echoed, you know, do the best we can to try to appease everybody, but you won't. So we'll try and do the best we can. I just hope that you've got something taken into consideration for that McEwen Gas Bar and Canadian Tire. That, like Councillor Wells and I've already both said, that could be, to me, one of the bottlenecks in the whole shooting match.
Anything further, Councilor Wells?
Yeah, just one more, like, I'm a little concerned about the time frame for this tender. I think it's pretty tight, but we'll see what happens, because it's a pretty big project just to have. It's almost like, what, less than 3 weeks, so see what happens. Hopefully people just don't start adding extras in there because they're don't have a complete time to do it. So you'll probably see at the end of the day what companies are bidding this. They'll ask for extensions on it, but that's just my personal opinion. Thank you.
So for clarification, Mike, you got the tender issues on November 13th. And the tender close is December 4th?
Yes.
Okay, because you had mentioned 14th, so I'm just clarifying that. So you feel that's enough time for all the major construction firms to look at the pile of documents and come up with pricing? That makes sense?
It adds up to 3 weeks, which we feel is a pretty typical time frame for a project of this magnitude.
Okay. Councilor Mellon?
Yeah, sorry, Mary Bowles, but just a supplemental, I guess, if you will there be a completion date on this? And I can't stress enough, as far as I'm concerned, that there is a firm completion date on this project. So, you know, unless the unforeseen happens, you know, I'm seeing some projects now that I'm not overly impressed with, but I would like to see a firm completion date. And if, so go so far as to say penalties if they're not, you know, if it isn't done within the time frame that's, you know, allowed in the tender.
At this moment, I don't believe we have a time frame requirement in this contract. I don't see why we couldn't put one in.
Yes. Oh, you gotta remember, we're in the heart of our largest village, and I don't wanna see, you know, unnecessary delays or whatever. I don't want another Brinston Bridge.
That is a valuable comment, and we will go back and assess. And I think what we should do is open up some dialogue between ourselves and yourselves, and set a goal, a target construction period that we feel is reasonable, and work to include that in the contract documents.
Gardner, one more?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I thought at county council, either yourself or myself brought up the wanting it to have a very firm end date so it didn't impact the residents of South Dundas. I do believe it's been mentioned before, and meeting is recorded, so.
I'm sorry, I don't recall, but I will review, and we will, like I said, work together and resolve this.
Okay. So, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Mike, for your work on this project. I know, you jumped into it, feet first, and, Ben probably didn't give you a lot of heads up on what you're gonna get into, but, that's okay, you handled it very well. I'd like to thank Ben, for being here too. I think the key message tonight, and we heard it loud and clear last May, or the May before, that, you know, the businesses weren't happy, satisfied, I'd say 95%, but there's some ongoing issues that will certainly impact one business significantly if you can't try to accommodate the best you can. The rest of the design looks fairly good. I think we're gonna agree to disagree on where sidewalks and entrances, crosswalks go. And I think Councilor Wells actually brought up a fairly good point that we'll see how it goes. I fully agree that roundabouts are the way to go. But the difference in traffic between the roundabout and the stoplight is at least you get some breaks to get in and out of traffic, and you won't get that as much with the roundabout allowing traffic to keep circulating from 31 and 2. So, we'll see how that goes. Other than that, I think, and I will also echo what Councilor Mellon and Deputy Mayor Gardner said about thinking about timelines. I was the one that held it back, so we didn't have any winter construction, and I think that's always the best. However, you know, this will have a significant impact to the village of Morrisburg and those going in and about it. So the shorter the better within, you know, respecting some, you know, monetary guidelines, because it's, you know, there's gonna be penalties. You try to do it in 2 months versus 6 months versus 4 months, you know, it always costs more money to try to cram a project in. However, we don't want a contractor to come in and say, we'll get this project started in May, and then, we'll see you in October, and we'll finish it all winter, because we got a whole bunch of other projects to do. So whoever we get for a contractor, and I know we have a bunch of real good ones out there, we wanna make sure that they know that they are doing a very important project in South Dundas and SDG. And we would appreciate their attention on making sure that that project gets done to the best of their ability without delays that are caused, by themselves or us. I know that COVID's caused issues this year. I suspect there may not be issues going yet for next year, but, that whole area is, you and I witnessed there a couple weeks ago looking, it is quite busy. It impacts our tourist trade, it impacts, the parks, it impacts a lot. So, the best, you know, we'll work for it. I think a timeline makes sense, works for all of us. I remember going to the Lakeshore Drive construction project during the winter, and it's not pretty, so. And my final comment will be that, you know, I think we've got the best design we can do on paper. Hopefully not too many change orders as we go along, because we all know they cost money, but, if in the end things need to be fixed, jackhammer can take out a lot of concrete. With that, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. We'll get our computers back to where we need them so we can see our stuff. So moving on. Action request, our first one's P 2020-05 XploreNet Telecommunications Tower on Salmon Road.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, second by Councillor Mellon, that the Council of the Municipality of South Dundas accept report P 2020-05 to approve the proposed telecommunications tower location on Salmon Road, XploreNet Communications, with a reduced setback of 12.38 meters.
Nicole?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you, you have an application for a telecommunications tower located on Salmon Road. The company that is submitting the application is XploreNet Communications. Under our current telecommunications policy, which was drafted in 2006, there is a requirement for the tower to be at least a distance of the height of the tower from roadways and property lines. Xplornet is requesting a reduction in that. The tower height is 45 meters, and they want to be approximately 12.38 meters from the property line to the east. If you have any questions, I can answer. Just to let you know, Deputy Clerk Robert and myself have looked into updating our telecommunications policy as it's quite outdated. And majority of the municipalities do not have setbacks in these policies. I can answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Council Wells, any comments, questions, concerns?
No, like I said, most of the other townships and that don't have setbacks in this case, and I have no issue with what they're asking for, so I'm good. Thank you, Mayor.
Council Mellon?
I have no issues with the setbacks, because the setbacks from any buildings is adequate, or whatever. The setback to the east is under at 12 or whatever, but it's an open field. I guess the only concern I have is that down the road, it doesn't have a separate entranceway. It's going to be using, as I see this on the diagrams and whatnot, the property like a, so I'm just worried that down the road, there could be some issues if that property changes hands, and are they gonna have it an easement or a right of way through this person's yard, their home, driveway, whatever? And why wouldn't we require them to have have their own driveway to eliminate that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the telecommunications companies do require an agreement with the property owners, and if the ownership changes, it would be transferable to the new owner.
Okay, just, hopefully there's not issues down the road, but, yeah, okay.
Just a clarification, it is a lease, so the property doesn't change hands. The tower will be sitting on leased property, so that makes a bit of a difference too.
It goes with the property.
Goes with the
Okay.
property.
Thank you.
Council Lewis, anything?
No questions, no issues, thank you.
Everybody got or nothing? The only issue I had thought of is to ensure that the property owner to the east is not impacted by the tower, because that's the setback challenge. Just to give you a little bit of a background on why we have such a stringent policy, I think it evolved even for my time of a tower that is located, I believe, on Broken Second, that a lot of residents had complained about. Previous CBO Lewis made a pretty tight policy, and it reflects now, and I'm not encouraging you not to do that, but please keep that in mind as you redesign your policy, because it had some, at that time, towers were not looked at very good, because not as many people had cells, and now everybody wants to have towers, so they're all out. Other than that, I don't have an issue with it, so. Nothing further from council? Seeing none, all heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next one, PE 2020-06, Freedom Mobile Telecommunications Tower on Station Street.
Moved by Councillor Mellon, second by Councillor Wells, that the Council of the Municipality of South Dundas accept report PE 2020-06 to approve the proposed telecommunications tower by Freedom Mobile Incorporated on Station Street in Iroquois, with a reduced setback of 7.5 meters and the allowance within 2 kilometers of other towers.
Nicole?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Similarly, Freedom Mobile has submitted an application for a tower located at 20 Station Street, which is where these mini storage is in Iroquois. The tower will be located directly behind the storage buildings. They're requesting a reduction from 70 meters, which is the height of the tower, to 7.5 meters from the north property line. Just to note, the tower is within 2 kilometers of 3 other base stations. One is on our water tower just south of that location, and the other 2 are to the west being a Rogers Tower, and to the north, past the 401, another company tower. If you have any questions, I can answer those at any time.
Okay, any comments, questions, concerns on this tower from any members of council? Yes, go ahead, Councilor
I have one
Wells.
question, like, is there a problem with being within 2 kilometers of these towers? Is there interference or anything, or is it just something that's thrown in there?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the original telecommunications tower policy does require the tower's submissions to be at least 2 meters away from another tower.
2 kilometers?
So that's why I had to include that. Just to note, they did do the public survey, and the only comments they got back were lack of service in certain areas. We did have an outside consultant review the analysis on the tower, and there is no interference with our fire station equipment or the other towers located within that area.
I'm good to go, thank you.
Yeah, I think that was part of the policy where they were trying to encourage more on one tower, so less towers were evolving in South Dundas, so.
I'm good.
Okay, if this is it, then all heard the motion, those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Moving on to bylaws now. First bylaw is 2020-96, John Street, stop up and close.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, second by Councillor Mellon, that bylaw number 2020-96, being a bylaw to stop up, close, and dispose of a part of John Street, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
You speaking to this?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is just a follow-up from our last meeting in regards to a portion of John Street that Ross Video has requested that the municipality transfer to them to allow the proceeding of the expansion of Ross Video. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Any comments, questions, concerns from council on this? Seeing none, all heard the motion, those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Next one is 2020-97, procedural bylaw update, electronic meetings.
Moved by Councillor Mellon, second by Councillor Wells, that bylaw number 2020-97, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2020-22, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Ethan?
Thank you, Mayor Boyles, members of council. So before you is bylaw 2020-97 to amend bylaw 2020-22. These changes were outlined last meeting on October 19th to allow electronic participation in council meetings moving forward. As staff reviewed the bylaw, there were a few other sections as well that are requested to be amended just to better align a procedural bylaw to permit electronic meetings. If council has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Any comments, questions, concerns on this bylaw? Councillor Mellon?
I agree with what's done here. I said, committee of councils, for them to have a quorum, they have to be attendance, have to be at the meeting. But it's not included for a council, I don't know, when I read that report, I just don't know if that's something we should have, that a quorum would be achieved by, you know, by a live, people actually at the meeting. Because otherwise, you could have one person at the council meeting and everybody by virtual. And it would act as a quorum, and it's doable, but I just don't know if it's, was my only comment here, Bibles.
Any comments?
Yeah, just one comment there. So why the difference between the committees and the council? We have the ability to control and manage council's technology. We have staff who are available for council meetings. If we were to require the same requirements on committees, we would require committee members to have laptops, to have communications in the meeting rooms at their end, and they would also need staffing support. So that's why we made that clause, to ensure that the majority of members are present. They can still conduct the meeting, but we're not providing additional technology, laptops, communication devices, internet, in all these different locations. Whereas we have that ability with council, because all council has laptops, we have the communications technology enabled.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay, I think it makes sense too, so.
Okay.
We'll try it. I think this is a new venture for any council, including ours. I think Deputy Clerk Robert mentioned about committees, and we don't want, we want to make sure committee meetings are still fairly simple to run, and if everybody goes electronic, then it'll be a challenge. We've gotten used to electronic meetings. We know the technology, and it actually, I actually used some of our bases at our county council meeting at our last one and got that changed too, because we weren't gonna do that. So I think it's an opportunity to go forward, so.
Yep.
Yes, Clerk Brunt?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think that our intention is to have everyone in the room, and I think it has to be very specific if you're not in the room, as we've indicated in that bylaw. You know, you have to have a good reason, you have to be sick or broken leg or whatever, not being able to get into the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think most of the time you'll be in person.
Chances are it's never gonna happen. When I saw that, committee of the council,
And fair comment, just keep in mind, Council Mellon, that in a normal non-COVID year, you'd probably miss a December and a February meeting, and we wouldn't allow you to come in that way either, so. And I know that Councillor Wells would have had a real challenge the last time. I don't think he would have had any internet access in the middle of nowhere, northern Ontario, so. Anyway, we'll use it well. I think it won't be abused. I think we're a fairly responsible council, and I think anybody who runs their council and sits at this table and will use it responsibly too, so. Anything further? Seeing none, all heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next one is 2020-98 zoning bylaw amendment for 10404 Haddo Road.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, second by Councillor Mallon, that bylaw number 2020-98, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 2010-48, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Nicole, you have anything further on this?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, just had some technical difficulties.
That's okay.
Nothing further. We haven't received any comments from any of the public, so I think we're okay with moving forward.
Okay, any comments, questions, concerns from council on this? Seeing none, I'll learn the motion. Those in favor, opposed, motion carries. Next one, 2020-99, COVID-19 workplace safety policy.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, second by Councillor Mallon, that bylaw number 2020-99, being a bylaw to adopt policy number 3-24, COVID-19 workplace safety, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Shannon?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is just a follow-up from our last meeting where a draft policy was presented to Council on our safety policy. We've made a few changes in regards to our short-term disability, adding that in, as well as expanded the Schedule A, which was the employee screening form. So if Council has any questions or concerns, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Any comments, questions, concerns from council on this?
I have none.
Seeing none, all heard the motion. Those in favor, opposed, motion carries. Next one, 2020-100 rating bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Mellon, second by Deputy Mayor Gardner, that bylaw number 2020-100, being a bylaw to impose special annual drainage rates upon lands in respect of which money is borrowed under the Tile Drainage Act, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Okay, so tile drainage loan then, okay. All heard the motion, those in favor, opposed, motion carries. Next one, 2020-101, Code of Conduct Municipal Bylaw Enforcement Officers Policy.
Moved by Councillor Wells, second by Councillor Lewis, that bylaw number 2020-101, being a bylaw to adopt policy number 3-25, Bylaw Enforcement Services Code of Conduct, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Nicole?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Based on the Committee of the Whole discussion regarding Property Standards Bylaw and AMPS Bylaw, we just brought forward a policy for municipal bylaw services, Code of Conduct. This policy is to be used in conjunction with our personnel policies. If we have any delinquent staff members who are abusing power, we can address that under the personnel policy. And it also provides a little bit more of a, I guess, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. Provides a better level of service for staff, for the public. Sorry.
It happens, it's
I
okay.
can answer any questions at any time.
Okay, any comments, questions, concerns from council on this?
I read, everything looks good. I just wonder if, this is off this, bylaw here. Did we, that online survey, which I personally haven't seen, about, people was asking about,
That's a different subject, Council Wells, and we will be having a full discussion on that later.
Okay,
This
so-
is more a code of conduct for the municipal bylaw officers, whether they're enforcing those standards
So it
or
doesn't pertain
current
to it,
one.
no. Okay.
Not specifically, no.
okay, no, that's fine. That's the
No,
only thing I had.
that's a discussion and a half on its own, that one.
Okay, good to go. Thank you.
Okay, yes.
I just, thanks, Nicole. I know we had a active discussion about this, and this is a really good start.
Okay. I see nothing further. All heard the motion. Those in favor, opposed, motion carries. Next bylaw, 2020-102, Cook Doyle Municipal Drain.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, second by Councillor Mellon, that bylaw number 2020-102, being a bylaw to assess the maintenance costs of the Cook Doyle Municipal Drain and branches, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Sean? Are we having technical difficulties?
You there, Sean?
Sean has left the building.
Oh, I see his phone.
Good morning, I'm back.
Okay, good. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a bylaw to assess the maintenance costs of the Cook Doyle Drain and 5 of its branches. The maintenance work commenced in 2017 and was completed in 2018. The net amount to be assessed to the landowners of the watershed is $66,834, and the invoices will have a due date of December 18th.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, questions, concerns on this drainage billing? Councilor Mellon?
Yes, I almost fell off my chair when I looked at the dates there, Sean. Congratulations, you got a 2018, and we're billing out in 2 years. That's what I want to see. My only comment, Mayor Byvells.
I did
That's where we
see,
gotta be.
I did see a list under the treasurer's
Yes.
to-do list yet that we have quite a bit, so yeah, congratulations with clarifications, I guess, on that. So we're working through them. I think, staff is doing their best to get these billings out and get money in our pocket, and the farmers and landowners knowing that they have, bills to pay, so good. Anything further? Seeing none, all heard the motion, those in favor, opposed, motion carries. Consent agenda,
Moved by Councillor Wells, second by Councillor Lewis, that all items listed under general consent section of the agenda be adopted as presented.
okay, this, within today's consent agenda is a letter from the Association of Municipalities of Ontario with the, transition schedule for the Blue Box program. A letter from Enbridge on pricing, petitions from Clarence Rockland, Oro Medonte, South Dundas Tourism Advisory Committee minutes, Economic Development Committee minutes, accreditation for report on our water system. We also have key information report on a splash pad water billing that people should take note of, recreation survey that they're working on, and monthly activity reports from recreation, economic development, transportation, environmental services, fire and emergency services, finance, administration, and CAO. All heard the motion, those in favor, opposed, motion carries. Boards, committees, discussion items, no county council, cemetery board, nothing from Air Quad District Business Group, Morsel BIA,
Nothing.
South Nation Conservation Authority,
Nope.
Morsel Waterfront, nothing. Airport Waterfront, nothing. South Branch Fund, nothing. Carmen House,
Nothing.
nothing. Nothing from Dundas County Archives, Tourism Advisory Committee?
Nope.
Economic Development Committee?
Nope.
Doctor Advisory Committee?
Nope.
Well, that was quick. Guess we didn't do anything in the last 2 weeks, and that's okay.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I argue that point too.
Anyway, I'm just gonna get to where I need to in my agenda report. Okay, so we have a report from our planners at JL Richard concerning proposed cannabis zoning bylaw amendment. Is Aaron still with us? Okay, go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead, then, please.
All right, give me 1 second here. So as outlined in the report back in 2018, recreational cannabis became legal in Canada. Bill C-45, known as the Federal Cannabis Act, is the legal framework under which the production, distribution, sale, and possession of cannabis for both medical and non-medical purposes is regulated within the country. Health Canada has been mandated to implement this legislation. The implementation includes licensing of all producers. The Federal Cannabis Act created a legal and regulatory framework for cannabis in Canada. The Act does not speak directly to land use and provides no linkage to the municipal planning framework. In order to implement the federal legislation and facilitate access to recreational cannabis throughout the province of Ontario has created a legislative framework through the establishment of legislation which includes the Cannabis Control Act, the Ontario Cannabis Retail Corporation Act, and the Cannabis License Act. Any municipal regulations that may be developed are to stem from the framework set out by the province of Ontario and are restricted by both this provincial direction and guiding federal legislation. There are also provisions for certificates for individual use that can be issued by a medical doctor. It should be noted that zoning and site plan cannot be used to regulate this type of use as it is related to an individual, as we are not able to regulate how an individual uses their home or business. As mentioned, Health Canada has been mandated to implement the regulations provided in Bill C-45. Implementing this legislation includes licensing of the various types of producers. The classes and subclasses of cannabis licenses issued by Health Canada are found on Figure 1, which should be provided on the next page of the report. Health Canada regulates the following with respect to licensed facilities. So this includes site design, physical barriers, which can include materials for walls, floors, ceilings, doors, fencing, placement and construction of windows and doors, the location of product storage, restricted access to production and storage areas, security monitoring, which could be cameras and lighting, fencing, record keeping, and then also production practices. So the cannabis regulations establish the classes of licenses that authorize activities in relation to cannabis. So there's a license for cultivation, processing, analytical testing, sale, for research, and then for drug license. With regards to cultivation and processing, there are licenses for micro cultivation, standard cultivation, a nursery, micro processing, and standard processing. Section 41 and 84 of the cannabis regulations also establish that a license may include to cultivate, propagate, or harvest cannabis can be outdoors, but the processing, testing, packaging, and storing must take place indoors. So now I'm just going to speak to the recommendations that we have for cultivation and processing. With regards to cultivation, the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, known as OMAFRA, provides guidance to the implementation of rural policies. And the PBS as well, the provincial policy statement, has identified that the cultivation of cannabis would be considered an agricultural use. It also demonstrates that the typical processing of cannabis, such as the picking, the sorting, trimming, curing, testing, packaging, and storage, would be considered a value-retaining agricultural use. So it would be accessory to the primary agricultural use occurring on the property. Therefore, with regards to planning policy, the municipality must view the growing of cannabis as they would any other legal agricultural crop, therefore would be permitted as an agricultural use. We do recommend amending the definition of agricultural use to explicitly state that cannabis cultivation is considered an agricultural use. We also recommend that the municipality amend that same definition to include on-farm diversified use in order to permit some processing of products grown on site. Again, that's to be accessory to the primary agricultural use. And this will be consistent with the PPS and with OMAFRA. We also recommend that fencing or buffering be required along the perimeter of the subject property, and that any storage for cannabis be in a fully enclosed building in efforts to reduce odor and to protect the product, and that is in line with Health Canada. For processing, cannabis processing operations are considered an industrial use similar to other processing or manufacturing facilities, which would therefore be permitted in the light industrial and the general industrial zones in our zoning bylaw. And again, they would be considered as an accessory use to the agricultural use. So the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, MECP, has developed the D6 guidelines to be used by municipalities when creating policy for industrial lands that deal with land use compatibility between the sensitive uses and industrial lands or industrial uses. Based upon the guidelines categorizations of industrial use, a typical cannabis facility would be a Class 2 industrial use. Dependent on the size and the actual function of the facility, it could also be a Class 3 industrial use. So Class 2 sets out a minimum of a 70-meter separation distance between the industrial use and the sensitive uses, while Class 3 would set out a 300-meter separation distance, minimum separation distance. I would like to note that Section 4.4.3 of these guidelines say that site-specific zoning or site plan control may impact setbacks, as the use of the setback for any activity associated with the industrial use could create adverse effects. So if they're shipping or receiving, that's coming frequently, they may need greater setbacks. On the other hand, if there is landscaping, buffering, we could reduce the setbacks. It can be challenging to quantify potential issues with odor and noise as individuals experience these impacts differently. As this use could be considered a Class 2 or Class 3 under these guidelines, we're recommending a 300-meter setback or separation distance be established from sensitive land uses. Through an amendment or variance, it can be considered Class 2 industrial use under the MECP D6 guidelines, and or if the proposed processing facility implements mitigation measures to prevent and minimize the impact of the industrial use to sensitive land uses, as I mentioned, through landscaping, buffering, and alternative means. We recommend that cannabis processing facility be subject to site plan control as well. This is a good way for us to regulate and kind of control how development occurs on a particular site. And we would want to do this in accordance with the licensing provisions that Health Canada has established. Again, the site design, physical barriers, location of product storage areas, restricted access to production and storage areas, the security monitoring, and the production practices. In addition to this, as it would be considered an industrial use, it would be subject to industrial parking requirements, which is 1 parking space for every 70 meters squared, a floor area up to 2,000 meters squared, plus 1 additional space for every 200 meters of floor area thereafter. Again, all storage would be in a fully enclosed building, and then we would also require that they demonstrate adequate odor and noise mitigation measures, and that adequate water and wastewater be provided to the property and to the use. I'm briefly going to touch on retail as well. Ontario Cannabis License Act prohibits that a municipality from passing of a zoning bylaw or requiring site plan that would differentiate a cannabis retail store compared to any other retail store. They are to be considered the same. With that said, the Education Act does require a 150-meter setback from the property line of a school or a private school to a cannabis retail store. Other than that, there's no other regulations in terms of locating cannabis retail stores within a municipality. in the township of South Dundas of retail stores permitted in the general commercial and the tourist commercial zones. All right, if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer to the best of my ability.
Okay, thank you. Start with Deputy Mayor Gardner.
Thanks, Mayor Byvelds. My one question with all this, it sounds really good, but with the, I'll call them active cases that we had this past year, would this, the suggestions in this, would that have assisted us in preventing those from popping up?
Sorry, could you just provide a little bit of history on the?
Yeah, I don't know if Nicole's looked at it, but we've had several large scale agriculturally based cannabis operations grow up, and I'm not going to get into whether they were legal or illegal or whatever. But with this, I look at these bylaw suggestions as tools. So with these proposed things that we should look at and consider, whether it's the 300 meters or any of that stuff, would this tool have prevented our past issues with some of those grow-ops?
I can speak to that. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have 2 active industrial businesses in effect right now that would need to go through this process as they're not currently legal. They're legal under Health Canada, but they're not legal within our municipality. So they still have to apply for authorization and building permits, which includes the Planning Act. So as soon as we enforce or implement this bylaw, they would have to meet those requirements. As for the agricultural one that we've recently seen in the newspaper, I guess, it wouldn't have addressed anything except for the buffering and the security that would be required for that property.
Okay.
Because it's an agricultural zone, it's still a permitted use on that property. So we can't tell them they can't have it. They would just have to meet the requirements outlined for setbacks, buffering, and stuff like that.
So the buffering would have added, though, definitely an element, right? Like 300 meters is quite substantial from the roadway. Do you think, Nicole, that would have helped a little bit?
I think for sure, yeah. They were fairly close based on our current zoning bylaw setbacks. From, what's the road? There's...
Rowena? Or,
no, the opposite. Strader?
Yeah.
Shaver, that's it, yeah. So they were fairly close to Shaver Road. They were set back onto the opposite, so the westernmost property line, but they did meet the setbacks. I think having it with a 300 meter setback from neighboring uses, so residential uses, it would have helped for sure.
Okay.
The amount of plants, though, you can't control the smell.
No.
It's the same as driving by a dairy barn and not smelling manure, basically.
Yeah. That's my only concern is, if we're gonna do this, I wanna make sure we're giving you the right tools, to at least, make it a little bit of a better process than last time. Obviously, there's not much you can do when illegal, stuff happens, but at least if you feel this is a good start and it's going to give you at least something to work with, then, then I like the suggestions.
Yeah, I think it will definitely help with processes, especially in the industrial areas where they are in town or close to town. It'll control the odor and some of the complaints that we receive from neighboring properties.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Lewis?
No,
I just want to add to the odor.
Go ahead.
We could also include under our definition of a cannabis processing facility that it have a air treatment control within the building, and that can help, again, kind of reduce the impact. It won't get rid of it 100%, but it'll help mitigate and lessen that effect and that impact. I believe that was done in North Glengarry. She included it as a provision in the zoning bylaw, and there were different setbacks as to whether a facility had air control or not. And that's just another technique or another tool that we can.
Okay. Councilor Lewis?
I think that would be good to add. I do believe that this is a good start, and it does give us a tool now to play on. Good work. Thank you very much.
Councilor Mellon?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Byvells. You know, this is a slippery slope because, you know, cannabis growth, or growing cannabis is, you know, deemed an agricultural product, which is anyways, well, I won't go there. But we don't want to impose any restrictions or any, you know, hoops or hurdles that, you know, a legitimate, and I'm gonna use the word legitimate agricultural production, you know, whether it's poultry or dairy or whatever, you know, would have to go through with this, and I don't think that's you know, I don't think it's in here. I'm thinking you've got this as a Class 2 industrial? Like, facilities, like,
We said that it could be considered a Class 2 or a Class 3 based on the MECP D6 guidelines. They have a different separation distance requirements. So the Class 2 is a 70-meter separation distance, minimum separation distance from a sensitive land use, like a residential use, while the Class 3 has a 300-meter separation distance. So we're recommending that we establish the 300-meter separation distance for the processing facilities from sensitive land uses. And then the applicant, the landowner, could apply for a variance or an amendment to demonstrate that it actually suits more of the Class 2, in which case the 70-meter setback could apply, but they would need to initiate that process and demonstrate to us how they meet the 70-meter setback as opposed to 300-meter.
okay, thank you. As far as the odor control, if that was a requirement in here, on a greenhouse, could you actually, I'm just trying to figure out if you could, you know, put a filtration system in a greenhouse, whether it's gonna be even, you know, I can see it in a closed block structured building, yes, but in a greenhouse, you know, I don't know if we need to tighten it up there to somehow or another, as far as I'm concerned, eliminate greenhouses from the equation. Because if they put greenhouses up, I just don't see how any type of odor control or filter system is gonna really, maybe I'm wrong, it's happened before. Maybe it'll work, but I don't know how.
So through you, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
So the air control is more for the industrial uses on industrial properties. We can't really control the air quality on farm properties, unfortunately. So even if they were growing it outdoors, it's the same as growing it in a greenhouse. That there's no filter for the actual air quality. It's more related to the industrial spaces where, so for instance, Flag Road, if you drive by there, it's very prevalent, especially on a humid, windy day. So you would notice that less with the air control systems.
Yeah, you know, that's the trouble, and I mean, can we put the clause in there for cannabis? I don't want this to come down on the ag community. We don't want somebody's got dairy or pigs, or, you know, there's gonna be a smell. It's just part of the nature. That state, as far as I'm concerned, is not ag, and it should never be, but it is, and so we gotta be careful how we tread down that road between, you know, imposing something on the cannabis and, you know, it carry over into the ag sector. Can we put the clause in there, you know, that, it's for, you know, any cannabis growers have to have, you know, the odor control? Without that imposing further on to the ag sector, because
So the definition of the cannabis under the zoning bylaw that's proposed, it wouldn't affect the regular farming practices for poultry, pig farms, dairy farms. It would be separate definition under agriculture. So it's defined as a cannabis use, but it falls under agriculture because the province has designated it that way. So it doesn't affect a dairy farm at all. It's unless they're growing cannabis on their property.
I'm not gonna go.
Yeah, the odor control would
Okay.
be specific to a cannabis processing facility, and we would make that very explicit in the definition that it's strictly for the cannabis processing facility.
That's all for right now, Mayor Byvells. I've got some other notes here, but some of it's been taken care of.
Council Wells.
Actually, most of my questions been answered. The only concern I have is the property that the municipality has already sold to a processing cannabis, they're gonna come here at one point. I wonder if this bylaw is gonna add to the cost that they unforeseen, or will we have to amend it for something it's a very good start, excellent start, and, but I'm just wondering with this, if it's gonna come back to, this company bought 4 acres of land from us, and we had nothing in place, and they didn't anticipate all this, air quality, which they probably have. Maybe I'm, looking too far ahead, but I just wanna know what would happen, with this company. I guess, we took their money, and now we're asking them to spend a lot more money, so, that was my only concern with this. We definitely need this by all means. As far as, outdoor smell, the setbacks are, some of those setbacks would be properties. I don't even know if this setback with the property that was mentioned up on Shaver Road or Rowena Road, if they were actually would have been able to even go ahead and build there. But it's definitely in the right direction with this bylaw. But other than that, Mayor, I have no more questions.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Just to speak to the industrial property, I believe the intent of the purchase there was to construct an industrial building for processing anyway. They do have to maintain proper ventilation under the building code, so I don't believe it would be an additional cost that you're incurring at all. It just allows us to kind of guide them in the right direction on the zoning of the property and how it affects the neighboring residents that live there already or have businesses there.
Okay. Thanks, Nicole.
Okay, so, some comments. I do like the provisions for, cannabis. First of all, I'll say it's a very thorough report. It gives us all the background we need to make a proper decision, that's for sure. The definition of cannabis processing facilities includes growing within them, so that's good, that covers that. They don't become an agricultural facility because of that. I do like the 300-meter setback as a start. Odor control should be a must on these buildings, and if they can demonstrate that they can do the 70-meter setback with odor control and everything, I think that would be something that we as a council can either entertain, or if it's a minor variance or whatever it would take to have that happen. But the big concern I do have is, and I know and I understand it because I've read it all, is that a greenhouse is a building, yes, but it's still considered a field crop, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the grow op that we did have at Rowena and Shaver Road is not impacted by this bylaw whatsoever because of being located in our agricultural zoning, correct?
So they would be impacted by the 300-meter setback, which would put them significantly farther back on their property. I believe they had 100 acres on that property, so it would be farther back away from the neighboring residents on Flag Road. Control of the odor would definitely not be addressed at all.
Okay, Aaron, do you concur with that?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't read that, because if you consider cannabis like any other crop, if that person had grown a corn crop there, even if it was under a greenhouse, or flowers, it would be legal. And now it's cannabis and it's not. So I'd like to implement the 300-meter setback. I'm not sure we're going to have enough teeth to do it, and that's my concern. From what I read of what Ontario considers cannabis, unless I'm wrong. So tell me yes or no, if it's considered an agricultural crop, then we can actually still implement a 300-meter setback because it's cannabis.
Yeah, I believe if it's defined under the Planning Act, we can enforce it under the Building Code Act as an applicable law. Because it's a municipal bylaw also, I don't see that as an issue for enforcement. You will probably have no guarantees, but there probably will be someone to challenge it, and at that time they would have to come to council for a modification. So similar to a zoning bylaw amendment.
Any further on that, Aaron?
No, I have nothing further to add.
Okay. I'll leave it the way it is then, if that's what it is. One thing I will mention to staff, though, that it brings back to the forefront, if we have an industrial building within our wastewater system, my understanding is that we still do not have a sewer use bylaw in South Dundas. And that without a sewer use bylaw in South Dundas, anybody can throw anything down our sewers. And this has been bantered around since we built the facility in Morrisburg, how many years ago? So if somebody's looking for a job someday, you can speak to it, but we need something. I just, not only to address any implications this could have, but any implications, period. So, want to speak to that?
So it's actually something we have added to our committee of the whole discussion over the next couple of months. Is something that is a must that we have to have some discussion on and look for some direction from council how we want to proceed with that. Because I agree, it's something that it's a must-have for this municipality. So something that will be coming back in the next couple of months.
Okay, that's good. I understand we did try one a number of years back, but it got hammered because part of the sewer use bylaw was the extra water that people were forcing in, and we were really going to be the hammer on that, and I think we have to rethink that section of it and make sure it works. But I'm more concerned about industrial additives or whatever. Like, if somebody set up a plant there, it'd be hard for us say no, because we have no sewer use bylaw unless the MOE helps regulate it. So
I imagine it'll be a couple meetings to get through it all, but because it's a pretty lengthy document. But I think the next couple months definitely start having some conversation and seeing about getting hopefully something implemented by early next year.
okay, anything else on proposed cannabis zoning bylaw amendments? Okay, then I think you've heard any concerns we had. If there's anything you need to add or delete, then do so, and then have you can bring it to, we have to have a public meeting on that? Yes, okay, so then we'll have to do that and do the proper notifications and everything else that goes along with it. Okay, thanks, Nicole and Aaron.
Thank you.
So next one's key information report on drainage update. Danielle?
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
So in front of you this evening is a report about the drainage work that we had planned for fall this year. So as council will remember, in September, we discussed how we will be going forward with drainage maintenance. So we determined that we would reach out with an RFQ, so we would get quotations on hourly prices to do the drainage work. So myself and Macintosh Perry set out, and we got pricing for a 20-ton excavator, a wood chipper, and a float. And these items that we got quotes for, we did go with the lowest bid, and that's who we are recommending in the discussion section, awarding to La Pointe Drainage. They would be doing both the work on the Altman Row and the Ray Moorhead drain. Both of those projects are quite small, so the timeline is estimated that the work will begin mid-November and be completed by December 31st. One of the items that we wanted to talk about tonight was that the Altman Row work for the riprap, it is technically a drain improvement because the riprap is not included in the engineer's report. However, since we've submitted this report to council, staff have had discussions with OMAFRA and Macintosh Perry and have determined that as long as it's the work is completed under bank stabilization, it will qualify for a grant through OMAFRA. And then once the grant subsidy comes in, we would bill out the rest of the work to the watershed. I'll take any questions if there are any.
Okay, Council Wells?
No, I have, no questions, I guess. The only thing on this, for your, where's the rates for by the hour? Like on this, I didn't see it, or am I missing it? It's not there. It's not there. Like for your hourly rate. So they're saying on this, on the one drain, it's gonna be between, there's pretty big variance there on, where is it here, hang on, apologize.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, the reason for the variance and why it's so large is because we've never done an hourly rate bill out before on drainage work. So we did provide a low end and a high end estimate. We can't imagine that that's going to be any higher than this. For example, the Ray Moorhead drain is estimated between 8,000 to 16,000. And it really just depends on weather conditions, what type of brushing we run into, and how much sediment is in the bottom of the drain. So we feel that the high-end estimate is 16,000, and if it's a really easy clean out, it'd be probably 8,000. The more and more we do some of this work, we'll have a better idea of how much it's going to cost.
So is Macintosh and Perry going to oversee the project, or is the municipality go oversee it, like as far as we're going by the hour, like we're gonna, you probably have a certain amount of footage that they think you can do by the hour, so like who's gonna oversee the project?
So Macintosh Perry is the municipality's drainage superintendent, so it would be their responsibility to oversee the construction work on the drain. They're also responsible for ensuring that it's done correctly and making sure that all of the dig outs are done correctly. So where we have to remove sediment, there has to be a specific elevation for those dugouts. So they'll be doing that work.
Okay, thanks, Danielle. No further questions, man.
Council Mellon?
No, the Altman Row bank stabilization, that'll be covered under OMAFRA grant then, right? And then it can be assessed back out or on the drain. You know, is that, I got that right from you, Danielle?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. So we originally weren't sure if we were going to be able to qualify this under OMAFRA's grant because it's not a drainage maintenance, it's a drainage improvement. However, in speaking to OMAFRA, it is such a small section and the bank does need to be stabilized. We do feel that it will meet the grant requirements.
Good, because yeah, the area in question definitely needs, and it should have been done in the original engineer's report, how it was not in there anyways. I haven't got a problem with going ahead and getting both these jobs done. I do, I guess, caution that we watch closely. La Pointe Drainage will probably do an excellent job, but the difference between operators, what one individual can get done in a day compared to another can be huge. So as long as McIntosh and Perry are watching it closely, as far as how much work is being done in a day or an hour. I also would encourage us to maybe reach out to other contractors to see if they would want to get on this list for a request for quotation. Because I'm noticing 2 or 3 major contractors in South Dundas that are not on there, but these are the ones that had submitted their names for this type of work, so. But if we're gonna keep going down this, I think we need to reach back out to the contractors to see if there is interest for them to do request for quotation pricing like this for future work. But that'll be a discussion for another day.
Councilor Lewis?
No, I have no questions.
I have no questions.
Okay, so I agree with Councilor Mellon. I think this is a good start. I think, there are a few, we had tried pre-COVID to try to get that assembly of contractors and try to come up with a list that, of those who would like to work. And I still think, going forward after this year, we need to come up with a better system somehow, some way. I have a request right now on drainage work from a farmer that I have yet to call back, but I'm sure Council Mellon's got a list at home of people who have called. So this is year 2 of dragging, and I'm not blaming anybody. We as council are part of it too, but we need, I think in year 3, COVID or no COVID, we need to come up with a plan, one way or the other. And I think whether it takes some thinking at council or some more ideas from McIntosh Perry and you, Danielle, to see where we can go forward, because we're getting behind every day on these drains. And I think this is a good trial on hourly rates. And you're right, you don't know what it is till you get in there. North Dundas has done this for quite a bit of years, so using one contractor. So we'll see where it goes. Keep us posted after on how it goes, and McIntosh Perry and your feeling on how it all went, and then we can make a decision for next year going forward. Anything else from council? Yes, Councilor Mellon?
Maybe this is, it's along the drainage line. The drains that we have had requests in, or standing requests in for maintenance, as I recall, they're just about ready to go, those drains are just about ready to go to tender, are they not? If we go down the tender route by McIntosh and Perry, they should have them ready to go out in early 2021, I hope.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, McIntosh Perry went out on Friday to investigate the outstanding request for maintenance. During those visits, they had meetings with some of the property owners, so some of the maintenance requests have been withdrawn since then. However, they'll move forward with getting the permits started for the other work, so I anticipate that we'll be doing some drainage work in 2021, probably early 2021. But I will follow up and find out when they anticipate to start those jobs as well.
Yeah, as long as the outstanding maintenance requests are being dealt with and hopefully ready for tender for early 2021 for this summer, but yeah, okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. Next key information report is from our treasurer on the Municipal Finance Officers Association request for 1-year extension on the asset management plan. So, Sarah?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The Finance Department is working towards the next target deadline for Ontario Regulation 58817. This is to have an approved asset management plan for 4 assets, which is roads, bridges, water, wastewater services for July 1st, 2021. So to assist in this deadline, the municipality hired Tyler Nelson as our asset management coordinator. The president of the Municipal Finance Officers Association, they've submitted a letter to the Minister of Infrastructure asking for a 1-year extension of the deadline pandemic. Many municipalities have faced funding and staffing issues during the pandemic, which has shifted their focus from asset management planning to the more immediate needs of the pandemic. From our municipal standpoint, we had to delay the start date for Tyler by 2 months because we closed the office. But in my opinion, I don't believe it will have a significant impact on us being the next target, but the extension would be welcomed as it would give us more time to complete some data analysis and would give us more time to develop a strong plan. So with that said, MFOA is looking for support from the member municipalities in the request for the 1-year extension. I can answer any questions council may have.
Okay, Councilmember Gardner?
Okay, so I appreciate the work's being done, and I appreciate the fact that you're saying it shouldn't have an impact on us. I think with this, my question of supporting it would have been had the pandemic completely prevented us from hiring that person. We did go ahead and hire the person, and you're saying, Sarah, that even with the 2-month delay, it's not going to have a significant impact. While I love to be a team player and support things, I think I'm worried about crying wolf too many times whenever in one particular instance we did go ahead, hire the staff member, we have him here, he's under contract. Doesn't seem to be a significant impact. I think there will be other areas where we absolutely need to ask for deadline change. But in this particular case, I just, when I read it, I was kind of like, you know, we didn't lay off people, we had the people working, as is the case with most municipalities. So in my mind, from a South Dundas perspective, I'm just worried about crying wolf too many times. There's gonna be some areas that we are definitely gonna need help with, and I don't feel strongly that this is one of them.
All right, Councilor Lewis?
I kind of agree with Deputy Mayor Gardner, because it seems like we go to the well one too many times. But on the other hand, you know, if we can't get the work done in that period of time, I guess our hands are kind of tied. We're going to have to do the extension. But let's hope we don't have to go down that road. I guess I haven't got a real big issue with this, but I don't want to see it come back to the table too many times.
Councilor Mellon?
Well, yeah, I mean, the Municipal Finance Officers Association of Ontario, they're the ones asking for the extension. We can coattail onto that, and we can get the extension if we need it. As Sarah has indicated that she didn't think, you know, we could probably meet it if we didn't get the extension. That was the one point am I correct, Sarah? Is that right? If we didn't get the extension, we would probably be all right, eh?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I think we are in pretty good shape for meeting the deadline. My only concern would be that if we need some contract work for getting the plan together, I do believe there's going to be a lot of municipalities looking for that early on next year to meet the deadline. Because I do believe a lot of people had to delay this year. So my concern would be that if we went out and got some work done, we might just get almost like a regurgitated plan from everybody else. Like it might not be as specific as we want it to be. But as I said, like I think we're in a pretty good spot for our data, and we should be able to pull together a decent plan.
So that being said, if the government extends it to the Association of Ontario there, that if we don't need it, I think we can go ahead and submit, can we not? You know, we can go ahead and be in compliance if, you know, but we don't, I can see what you're saying, Sarah. We want to make sure that it's as up to date and accurate as we can get it, but, yeah, you know, if it's done, we might as well utilize it.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, if we were ready to go, we wouldn't wait until like the deadline. The request is just to extend it for all municipalities, so it wouldn't be just for specific ones that have requested this extension. It would be applied to all Ontario municipalities.
Shannon?
The other comment I would add is, to Sarah's point, right now it seems like everything is going down the right path. The only thing that I can see is we can't predict what's going to happen the next 3-4 months with COVID-19. As we know, the numbers continue to rise. If we need to close our office for 2-3 months because of the pandemic taking a total shift, then we might not be able to meet that 1 year, so that extension would be used for us. So I think having that 1 year provides us that flexibility that if we can get it done, great, but if something does end up hitting us that we can't control, it gives us that little bit of more flexibility, that's all.
Yeah, that's all for now, Mayor Bibles.
Councilor Wells?
Yeah, there's pretty much everything's been answered. The only thing like with this, if we stay on track for our asset management, as we had discussions about before, the Ontario government will look at our asset management. It's in place. So if there's grants available that we're going out for, this is how the provincial government will look at our asset to say, okay, yeah, they have it in place. There's grants out there available that we might not have access to it because we're gonna take this year extension and we're not gonna have our thing in order. So, as long as we're still on track, I think, we just keep moving forward. I don't know, like, if we do agree to it, whether we have to use it or not, but I'm just wondering, like, down the road, this is the way the government brought this system, this asset management in to give them a little better overlook at what municipalities need as far as grants. So, I would say if we're still on track, hopefully everything goes good and we just move on and stick to our schedule, because I hate to see down the road, grants and that we might have had a chance if everything was in place that we could possibly lose. Not saying we would, but there's a possibility that we would. So that's it for me, Mayor.
Okay. So, clarification, Sarah, the letter that is dated October 22nd, 2020, was that sent?
Yes, I believe it's been sent.
Okay, and you're confident that we can meet the first deadline in July 1st, 2021 for having all our core assets within a system that gets us going?
Yes.
Okay. That's a good thing, because I did run on an asset management plan platform, so for me to delay it any longer would be a challenge. So I think I'm going to encourage you to continue on with Tyler and get that work done. And that'll I believe it will still set you up for 2 years to get the rest done. I know there's still a lot of work to be done, but I believe that, if you extend the deadline, we all tend to get a little on the lazy side that, oh, we got lots of time and we delay it and all of a sudden, oh, damn, we run out of time again. So I think let's see what happens, but I'm also going to encourage you and your staff to continue on and see what you can come up with, because I think that's important, important piece for not necessarily this council, because it'll be the next one that'll have the plan, but at least the pieces are in place to get things done, because we're not there yet. So that's my 2 cents on that, that's for sure. Anything further? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
We do have a resolution for that if we're going to go down that road.
but
Does
do
it
you
sound like
want,
we are or not?
I think the consensus is no.
Okay.
Unless someone jumps at me, no. Consensus is no. We'll see how it goes, I think. Key information report, lease extension.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm requesting Council's permission to extend an agreement with the United Counties of SD&G for 3 years. It's the POA court lease, and they use the court premises for approximately 10 days a year for this. The rate in 2020 is $260.86, and it will go up by CPI for the next 3 years annually. If anyone has any questions?
Do they guarantee us the 10 days?
Not until we ask.
Are we getting paid this year?
We've received.
Because they're not running, are they running courts right now? No?
No,
I
we
didn't
have
think so.
received approximately 2/3. So they're
Are they,
paying
were,
us.
were they running 10 days this year or more?
No, just 10.
Okay. Council Wells, you can start.
I have, actually, I'm good with it. If, they're, we can ask them to guarantee the thing. They might, I know they probably don't even wanna be down here anyways, they wanna be down in Cornwall. So, unless we have another use for that building, we basically take what we can get for now till this is all over. That's about it for me on that.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Mellon?
Yeah, I don't know, can you break down the cost for heating and electricity in that building, like for the court space away from that building, or is it all just one lump?
I believe the finance department has an answer for that. Mr. Mason? Can you help me? Or the treasurer?
There we go. Yes, the cost for the expenses is for the entire building. It's not, it can't be broken down by, we probably could do it by square footage, but right now the costs are for the energy or the water going into the building as a whole.
Yeah, okay. You know, I really think we need to ask for the 10, you know, the guarantee is 10 days. I mean, I have a problem with maintaining a building if they're, you know, it's not, like Councilor Wells already said, unless we have another use for that building, then maybe we need to look at that. You know, another use for that building, you know, whether the, you know, I don't know what, or that space, I guess take the money and, this year, hopefully it'll offset the cost of keeping that space heated. You know, that's in the court, but, yeah. I would like to see us get guaranteed 10 days, if that's, you know, if that's a doable thing. And I really don't think it should be too much of a hardship to go in and say, yeah, we need 10 days to hold that space. Otherwise, I don't know, I'm gonna raise calves in there or something. I don't know. You can put something in there that might make you more money, you know, but, yeah. That's all.
That space, that's the only thing that goes on in that space?
No, there's other court hearings in there as well.
Okay, so it's multi-used. Okay. Councilor Lewis?
I believe they would guarantee us the 10 days, paying days. I don't think we're asking for a lot. Like that breaks down to $2,600. And I know there's other courts that use that side also, but really, if you look at the big scheme of things with water, heat, I think they're getting off pretty lucky at $2,600. So I have no issue with it, but they should guarantee us in 10 days.
I think the guarantee of 10 days is more than reasonable. I think the way things are going at the courts, they may decide to do a Morseburg court that's delivered through video conferencing or whatever. So I think that it's more than fair to, if we're going to lock down that time, where it can't be used on other dates. I think they're basically paying to reserve that time, and I don't know of any other business that would operate where we just kind of decide that they can pay if they want. So I would be more than comfortable to say that they are indeed purchasing 10 days worth of space, and that's it.
I agree. I think 10 days is fair. It's a fair ask. As long, and if the space is getting used for other courts, then at least it's not totally wasted space. Anything else?
No, thanks.
Nothing from council? Okay. Next one is draft council remuneration policy.
So in March of 2020, we brought this policy forward to review, and we had some differences. So I'm bringing it back with the same changes, only I have added at the back on the appendix, we have added some rates to bring some fairness to the payment system. And that would be, so a special or committee of the whole or committee meeting would be paid up to 4 hours of $75. Meetings over 4 hours would be paid the per diem rate, and that per diem rate is set by the counties. We use the same rate as they do. It's about $193. And any extracurricular meetings would be $25 an hour. And I'll let the mayor speak to that because he's the one that suggested we.
He did, didn't he? Well, I did have my list, and I actually typed it in on my computer today. I did sit down with the clerk over a year ago on this because to be honest, I knew what I was getting into for workload as being mayor of South Dundas from my previous experience, but I will boldly state that it's twice as much work now as it was 4 years ago. It is unbelievable the stuff that needs to be done. And it takes up my time that is over and above, I'm very fortunate my son is taking over the reins of my business, that I don't have to do all the mental work there anymore. But if you're a person that wants to be in political life in any municipality, trying to run a business and being mayor or even a council member is a challenge now. And I think when we all sit in a room here, we tend to be the I wouldn't say cheapest, but the most economical paid employees of South Dundas. I think we have to be fair to us and still fair to our residents that we represent. We didn't run for the money, but I think we need to be fair to ourselves for the time we do take, and I believe all of us take this job very seriously and put time into it. So I did put what I could call spit at the wall, and I don't know how much stuff's going to stick, but I'll throw it on the table and we can go from there. So the standard honorarium would include all regular council meetings, and I define all regular council meetings as 2 for every month except for July and August, which is 1. So that's 10. And standard communications with residents and businesses. And so that would include your phone calls, that include your emails, that would include your chats at the grocery store, your chats at the bank. And don't kid yourself. When I tell Debbie I'm going to get groceries and I come back 2 hours later, she knows exactly why. And that's okay. That's just part of the deal. The only time I get a little disturbed is when I try to do some recreational activities, and I'm going to start curling next week. So I've been told by one resident curler that if someone starts getting involved in mayoral stuff when I'm having my recreational activities, he'll step in. So I'm relying on him. They can always give me a call later. Budget and committee of the whole meetings are extra due to not knowing number of meetings involved. And I think Budget could take 2 days, it could take 3, it could take 1, depending on how things go. Committee of the whole meetings, we've had good meetings. I think they add to South Dundas. It adds to what staff needs to do to go forward and saves time at a major council meeting, so we don't have to spend to midnight here. Consumer price index, like we usually do according to council's decision at budget, if we want to do it or not. Mileage at the county rate for those who take mileage. Meetings. My guide was $25 an hour, and I think that's a fair rate for time-wise. In my opinion, that includes travel time. So generally, committee meetings, instead of 75, some of them would be only 50. So, you can gauge it. Could be 75, depending on how long a meeting you have. But if you're in, I've been in a meeting where I thought it could be an hour, and 4 hours later you're still there. That takes a lot of time off your hands too. So special council meetings would include budget and maybe the whole $75 for 3 hours, not 4. And $25 for any extra time an hour. Something I didn't include, and I thought of when we were sitting here, is time to read special committee of the whole reports. And if I remember right, we've had some pretty lengthy agendas for committee of the whole. It's like 200 pages. I read our 200 pages today because I didn't have time till today, and between that and everything else, it takes a long time. Meetings with staff and organizations tend to be a challenge. I think that's something we're going to have to define a bit. But if we meet with, let's say the chamber or whatever, we're not doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for South Dundas. That'd be at $25 an hour. 2 conferences a year is like we're doing now, using the county rates. They tend to be default. Some of the challenges I know that the clerk has had with expense forms. So, and I've seen challenges in the past where people haven't put expense forms in, and all of a sudden at the end of the year they toss in the big one, and it's very hard to reconcile those kinds of things. I don't think we do that, but if we have some guidelines, at least they're there. They should be submitted by the 7th of the following month and paid by the 15th. December being the exception because of year end, so be in by the 20th and payment by year end, because usually by the 20th, most meetings are done. It will be the exception to the rule, and you can always add it to January. Have the ability to backdate for 1 month, and after that, your claim will be null and void. So you have to, puts a little onus on us as counselors to get them in. And using an honor system, you know what is right to put in a claim for, and you also know what's not right to put in a claim for. And I think if you do it, if you feel like it's something that you should be paid for, and you feel you can mentally justify it to council, or not mentally, if you can come in front of council and say, yeah, I can justify it, then I can see that as a claim. But if you can't submit every staff meeting, and one of my duties is meeting or talking to the CAO once a week or more often. I consider that part of my per diem. I don't consider that an extra. If you come in here and if one of the staff members says, I need your help for an hour or two on some discussion items, then that's a little different, I think. So if you're just coming in for a chat, no, that chat's on you, and I think that's fair. I'm just trying, I know it sounds complicated, and I'm willing to listen to anything and everything, but I'd like to at least put that on the table, and then if we want to just keep something simple as we have, we can certainly do it, and then we can go from there. The counties don't tend to be as involved, especially for counselors, but the warden is certainly busy. But other than that, we get well paid for what we do at the county level. I won't disagree with that whatsoever, so. Yeah, Mayor Gardner.
Okay. I have to say, this is always an awkward conversation. I'm just gonna put it out there. But, you know, when I ran, I knew, what to expect. I've worked in government a long time. But and I've always looked at things where, if I was pushing, a project, or, I was told to be at a place and time that I didn't get to choose the place or time, that's how I looked at it. Because if it's one thing if somebody's saying, okay, we've got this meeting at this time, I need you to be there. It's very different than me saying, okay, when would you like to meet? Yeah, that works, and that type of thing. So I've always looked at that. Council is definitely changing and evolving. I mean, I know that there were councillors that would put in cell phone and, you know, paper and pens and all this fun stuff. I don't claim any of that stuff. And I would be more than comfortable to keep a running list of the meetings that I hold that I consider it under my remuneration as a broad thing. I have no problem with that accountability. I think that some of these meetings that potentially aren't covered should be covered, especially if, you know, I know myself, if I'm going there and I've done some research and I've done, you know, there's a thought process and a skill set that's being requested to be at the table to push an item forward, then I think that's fair. I did some research today, and South Dundas still is the second lowest paid council. And again, I didn't run for the money, but when I think of 5 years from now, and other councils will make other decisions, attracting different skill sets around this table is one of the things that I've deemed important. And having, if somebody has to take off work to attend a significant meeting and there is, you know, a payment, I never want it to be a deterrent for people to actually sit around this table. I think that's an important part of democracy. So I'm really glad that we're getting rid of payment for social events. I think that's kind of very old school, and I don't like that. So that's good. I'm glad that we're getting rid of that. I don't think any one of us should go if you're hobnobbing with the who's of Whoville. I don't really necessarily think that the taxpayers should be paying for that. I do like Mayor Byveld's suggestion of the $25 rate. One thing whenever I was going through this was we always do, I think we can always learn sitting around this table, and when we talk about the conferences that we go to, I was thinking that maybe we should also open it up so that there's other conferences we can attend. Now there's going to be a lot of web conferences, and there's a lot of different things that would be interesting to kind of, instead of the top, what an AMO and those things are the big three. But I do, and again, I didn't run to make money, but like I said, any resident wants to see a list, I'm more than happy to present a list. I think that if it's a professional meeting and there's people sitting around the table, then and there's something that needs to be pushed, then that should be a discussion. That's all I have. I like the changes.
Councilor Lewis.
I really don't know how to come around this one. You know, I don't, myself personally, I don't charge for mileage. I don't charge for telephone calls. I don't, if I need paper and toner for my printer at home, I don't charge for that. I just go and pay for it myself. I think when I ran for council, I didn't run for the money, but I really think what I work for, I deserve. Like, if I have a meeting that's 15, 20 minutes long, I don't write that on a piece of paper. I don't claim that. But if I go to my BIA meeting and my Carmen House and my doctor recruitment, I'm taking time out of my day to do that, and I don't think that I think I'm being very honest to the taxpayers for what I claim every month. And I think if I added it up at the end of the day, at the end of the year, I'm most likely losing money. But that's okay. I'm not here for the money. But I can go with whatever way we have to go. But I just figure if I'm taking my time out to go to a meeting, that means I have to be home at a certain time to get ready for that meeting. And if I'm at that meeting for an hour, I shouldn't be getting $25. I should be getting my $75. And that's how I feel about it. And that's where I'll leave it.
Councilor Hahn.
Well, what's on here is about what I sort of been using anyways, the $25 for the extracurricular meetings. I know my wife has said to me numerous times, what would you do if you were working to go to the extra meetings? Would you have to take the time off or miss the meetings? And I think that's what we're gonna look for here, and as you've already alluded to, Mayor Byvelds, it's a lot of work for, especially at the head of council and stuff. Takes a lot of time. And if you wanna, attract, there's a lot of good, young, smart people out there that would be a wonderful asset, at a council table. But if they're gonna have to take money out of their pockets, take time off and whatnot, if they really knew, how much time was involved, and they maybe do, they won't even think about it. So, sitting around here, the five of us are somewhat retired. There's certain periods of days and times that we're maybe a little busier than other times in the year, but, I think we gotta look at this as making sure we're fairly compensated, and it's gonna compensate any future potential candidates down the road that may wanna run for a seat at this council table. And I mean, because there's, like I say, there's a lot of really smart young people out there that just with young families, and they gotta be compensated fairly. And I think that's all this is we're just getting paid for our time, I think, basically. Yeah. I haven't got a problem with it. It's basically what I've been sort of doing. And, I'm the one in the mileage, I charge mileage, sorry. Not all of them, but I do charge mileage. We gotta move the office back to Holbert, and I won't have so far to go.
You have that right, and that is up to you. I charge mileage to go to the counties. That's a big drive, so. Councilor Wells.
Well, not like the rest of my colleagues, I'm just in it for the money. No, just kidding. Just kidding, probably. Yeah, like for me, I definitely didn't do it for the money. As far as me as a counselor, it's not, I'm only on one committee. The rest of my colleagues have a lot more. I'm happy with what I'm getting, and moving forward by saying that, I can see the extra work that the mayor and the deputy mayor and the other councilors have. I don't really have a lot to say in it. Like, I don't claim gas, I don't claim anything. It's just, I get what Madam Clerk pays me, so. Yeah, so I'm, and like I said, to me, it's not gonna make much difference for me because I don't have a lot on my plate, just basically what council does, and a few, like the cemetery committee, well, I don't know, I'm sure they might even be buried, I'm not sure, because I haven't heard from them for about a year and a half, so anyways, that's my take on it, Mayor.
I believe the cemetery is still working pretty good. I think Bob's got her in control, right?
Yeah.
So after hearing that, Madam Clerk, what are your thoughts?
We will write something up and bring it back to you.
Okay, I think, yeah, throw something on paper and, even if it's a point form, maybe not in this policy per se or bylaw per se, maybe it gets a little this is real difficult to read as the printing gets a little small and you got it crossed out and not crossed out. And I think in the end, I think, you know, we all have to be fair to us. We have to be fair to those who want to run in our position. Yes, it's a challenging thing, and some people would say you're just padding your own pocket. But to say that this is a total volunteer job, I don't think it was right. I ran in 2006 not knowing at all what I was getting into. But times have evolved. I believe if an agenda in 2007 was any more than 30 pages, I'd be shocked. And now we're looking at 198. I don't regret the information. Yeah, you know, it's good that we get that, because then we're open and transparent, because those agendas are posted online, so we're not trying to hide anything. But it's real challenging for a young person to want to run for council, even whether it's money or time is the killer now. It takes some serious time. I'll be honest, when I get into heavy duty farming like we were last week, the phone is my best friend, and I will do what I need to do. And then things get kind of shoved off, and eventually we get a rainy day and we get the rest up, and I get to catch up on emails, and I'm half got up now, so I got a little bit more time tomorrow. But I think the big numbers are fair. I think that and this year's been a bit challenging with COVID and everything, you know. A few more meetings on trying to make sure things got done right on an emergency session. No social functions. So that really didn't impact us in a big way, but that's missed too, because that's our connection to our residents too, whether it's going to the Playhouse or going to an opening or whatever. So I don't foresee that coming in the next little while yet, but as I said, let's see what Madam Clerk brings back, and we'll have another challenge at it, and we'll go from there. Yes.
No, I just wanted to say I do like everyone's comments about attracting in the future. I can say for me, just on a personal level, I was fortunate that I could leave a job. Had I been in my job, even though my employer had agreed to me to be able to take off as much time as I wanted, unpaid though, it still would have been a loss, which is fine. But I really think that there is a tidal wave of switching how municipalities are governed, in the sense of the people that they attract. Because, you know, 10, 15 years ago, they might have looked at a municipal council as a volunteer role. Now, if you're an engaged politician, if you will, that's in it for the right reasons, you want to do some background study, you want to come to the table, you want to elevate the discussion. And I know for me, when you say it's definitely not a part-time, if I was commuting in an executive position, a lot of the projects that I've been very honored to work on with the community, I would not have been able to do. There's no way. So it's a tough discussion to have, but I guess you get what you pay for sometimes. So.
Any further comments from any members of council? No. Okay, that was a good discussion. I know, as we said, it's challenging, but I think we're only looking to be fair to who's here now, who will potentially be here in the future. And if you're in it for the right reasons, it still makes a lot of sense. So. Okay, no notices of motion tonight?
No.
No closed session?
No.
Ratification bylaw then, please.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, second by Councillor Wells, that bylaw number 2020-103, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
All heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. So before I have the clerk read the adjournment motion, I'd like to thank council for their time and diligence tonight. I'd like to thank all staff and the consultants for their information for us to work with tonight. And I'd also like to thank the audience for participating in Democracy at Action in South Dundas.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, second by Councillor Lewis, that council now adjourn to meet again at the call of the chair.
All heard the motion, those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.